If you dance right here, in front of everyone, I'll give you $1 million. The billionaire's voice echoed across the luxurious restaurant, his friends bursting into cruel laughter. He leaned back in his chair, sipping his wine, eyes fixed on the young black waitress standing frozen beside his table. Her hands trembled, her eyes glistened, but she stayed silent. "Come on," he sneered. "Isn't that more than you'll ever make in your life?" The laughter grew louder. Cameras came out. But what she did next silenced every single person in that room, especially the billionaire. The golden lights of Le Ciel, one of Manhattan's most expensive rooftop restaurants, shimmered against the city skyline. Inside, laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft tunes of a live jazz band filled the air. The restaurant smelled of wealth, perfume, caviar, and polished ambition. Behind the elegant chaos, Maya Carter, a 26-year-old black waitress, moved silently from table to table. Her crisp white uniform was spotless, but her eyes told a story of sleepless nights. She worked 2 jobs, this and a morning shift at a small cafe, to keep her mother's medical treatment going. Tonight, her body was tired, but quitting wasn't an option. As she placed another plate of grilled salmon before a couple, her gaze caught the reflection of table 7 in the mirrored wall, the VIP section. That's where the noise was loudest. 5 men in suits, all older, all powerful, were laughing too loudly to notice the discomfort of everyone around them. At the center of that table sat Alexander Dalton, billionaire CEO of the tech giant Daltech Industries. Dalton was the type of man who carried arrogance like it was a designer accessory. Every word he spoke dripped with the certainty that money made him untouchable. Maya knew the type. She'd seen them before. People who thought kindness was weakness. Another. "Bottle of your best wine!" Dalton barked, snapping his fingers. Maya flinched slightly at the sound, but forced a professional smile. She walked toward them, her steps quiet but graceful. "Yes, sir," she said softly, keeping her tone polite. Dalton looked up, smirk tugging at his lips. "You again? You've been running around all night, haven't you?" She nodded slightly. "It's been a busy evening, sir." He leaned back in his chair, eyes gleaming with a cruel amusement. "Tell me something," he said loud enough for his table to hear. "How much do you make here? A few hundred a week?" The other men chuckled. Maya froze, unsure if answering would make things better or worse. It depends on hours." "Sir?" she replied carefully. Dalton grinned, swirling the wine in his glass. "Hours? No, darling. It depends on who you serve. Maybe you should try serving better people." The table erupted in laughter. Maya's cheeks flushed, but she didn't. "Look away!" She took a quiet breath and straightened her shoulders. "Would you like anything else with your wine, sir?" she asked calmly. Dalton tilted his head, enjoying her composure. "Oh, I like that tone," he mocked. "So professional. Tell me, how much would it take to make you loosen up a little?" The men laughed harder. One of them whispered something crude, and Dalton smirked wider. He snapped his fingers again. Then came the line that would change everything. "If you dance right here," he said slowly, letting every word drip with arrogance, "in front of everyone in this restaurant, I'll give you $1 million. Laughter stopped for a second as the words hung in the air. Maya's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she thought she hadn't heard him right. "I'm sorry?" she whispered. Dalton leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes glinting with mock sympathy. "You heard me. Dance for us. Right here. $1 million. That's probably more than you've made your whole life, isn't it?" The men laughed again. Someone even whistled. The people at nearby tables turned to look. A few recorded the scene on their phones. The restaurant's chatter dimmed. Even the jazz music seemed to fade. Maya's throat felt tight. She could feel the weight of 100 eyes on her, some pitying, some entertained. Her hands trembled as she clutched her serving tray. She wanted to disappear. Dalton tapped his glass lightly. "Come on," he said mockingly. What's the matter? Don't tell me you're too proud for $1,000,000. Her lips parted, but no words came out. A tear welled up, but she blinked it away. In that moment, everything slowed down. The laughter, the lights, the stares. Inside, her mind screamed, "Don't let them break you." She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and whispered, "You really think money can buy dignity?" The table went silent. Dalton froze for a second, his smirk faltering. Then he laughed, loudly to cover the sting. "Dignity? Sweetheart, dignity doesn't pay bills. Money does." Maya looked at him, really looked. A man who had everything but nothing real. She gently placed the wine bottle on the table, straightened her apron, and said quietly, "Enjoy your meal, sir." Then she turned and walked away. The restaurant was utterly still. The only sound was her footsteps echoing against the marble floor. Dalton's friends stared, unsure whether to laugh or stay quiet. One of them muttered, "Man, that was cold." Dalton forced a smirk, but his eyes followed her until she disappeared behind the kitchen door. Outside, the city glittered, below the rooftop. Inside, a story had just begun, one that would soon make headlines around the world. The kitchen door swung shut behind Maya, but her chest still burned from what had just happened. She pressed her back against the wall, trying to steady her, breathing. The laughter from the dining area still echoed faintly through the door, sharp, cruel, unforgettable. She stared at her trembling hands. She had faced rude customers before, but this was different. This was humiliation, loud, deliberate, public. "Are you okay?" whispered Lena, another waitress who had watched everything from afar. Her face was pale. "That guy, he went too far." Maya nodded weakly. "I'm fine. Just need a minute." But she wasn't fine. Her heart ached, not just from the insult, but from the fact that everyone had laughed. No one had stood up. Not one. She looked toward the small staff window and saw the billionaire still at his table, smirking and holding court like nothing had happened. His friends were back to talking loudly, pretending it was all just a joke, but it wasn't. It was a wound that wouldn't fade easily. Maya closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "You don't get to define me." Moments later, she forced herself to return to work. She couldn't afford to lose this job, not when her mother's treatment bills were waiting. So, she picked up her tray and stepped back into the dining area, her shoulders straight, face calm. The laughter at table. Seven quieted when they saw her again. Dalton smirked, clearly amused. "Oh, look who's back. Thought you might have gone to practice your dance moves." A few people at nearby tables glared at him now. Word was spreading fast. Whispers rippled across the room. Phones were still out. Someone had recorded everything. Maya took a deep breath, walked straight to his table, and said quietly but firmly, "Your wine, sir." He looked at her for a moment, that same cruel glint in his eye, and muttered, "You know, sweetheart, some people would have taken the deal. You could have changed your whole life tonight." Her voice didn't shake this time. "Some things aren't for sale." The words hit harder than she realized. The men at his table looked away. Dalton chuckled, but it sounded forced now. Across the room, the restaurant manager approached cautiously, his nervous eyes darting between the billionaire and Maya. "Is everything all right here, Mr. Dalton?" Dalton waved him off. "Everything's fine. Just trying to offer this young lady a business opportunity." The manager nodded stiffly and backed away, unwilling to anger a VIP guest. Maya felt a mix of shame and anger rise inside her. Even the people supposed to protect their employees chose silence. She turned and walked away again, refusing to give Dalton another second of her dignity. Hours later, after the restaurant closed, Maya sat alone in the locker room. Her phone buzzed repeatedly, notifications piling up from social media. She frowned and opened one. Someone had posted the video, a short clip. Dalton's voice crystal clear. "If you dance right here, I'll give you $1 million. Then, her calm, trembling voice replying, "You really think money can buy dignity?" The post was spreading fast. Dozens of comments, hundreds of shares. Some people were angry, others were stunned. Disgusting power abuse. That woman's courage gave me chills. "Who is she? We need to find her!" Maya's hands shook as she scrolled. Her humiliation was now everywhere. But strangely, so was her strength. She set the phone down and buried her face in her hands. A tear slipped down her cheek. Not from pain this time, but from the shock of it all. Lena walked in quietly and sat beside her. "You know, people are already calling you brave." Maya laughed softly, wiping her tears. "Brave? I just wanted to keep my job." Lena shook her head. "No, Maya. You stood up to someone no one else would. That's brave." Maya didn't answer. She looked up at the clock. It was nearly midnight. Tomorrow, she'd wake up, go to her morning job, and pretend life was normal. But deep inside, she knew nothing would ever be normal again. Outside, the city that had watched countless stories of power and pride was about to witness another. One that would flip the balance, because by sunrise, millions would know the name Maya Carter. And the billionaire who mocked her would have no idea that his empire was about to crumble. Not from a business rival, but from a waitress he tried to humiliate. By the next morning, the video had exploded across every social media platform. Clipped, reposted, and remixed, the 20-second humiliation had become a symbol of everything wrong with wealth and arrogance. Dance for money trended worldwide. But right beneath it, another hashtag began rising. Respect has no price. Maya Carter woke up late that morning, exhausted from the night shift. Her phone was buzzing nonstop. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of notifications. She frowned, rubbing her eyes. When she opened her messages, the first text was from Lena. "Maya, you're everywhere. Turn on the news." Confused, Maya stumbled to the small TV in her apartment. And there it was, her own face, frozen mid-sentence. The anchor's voice played over it. The viral video of a waitress standing up to Billionaire. Alexander Dalton has sparked outrage and admiration worldwide. Maya's mouth fell open. No, 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 no. She wasn't ready for this. She hadn't wanted attention. She just wanted respect. But the internet doesn't ask for permission before it crowns someone a hero. Within hours, her inbox filled with interview requests. News outlets, podcasts, even influencers wanted to hear her side. For a while, she ignored them all. She went to her cafe job, pretending nothing had changed. But people recognized her instantly. Customers whispered, others offered quiet smiles. One elderly woman pressed her hand gently and said, "You reminded us all that some things can't be bought." That night, when she got home, Maya sat alone at her desk, where dozens of paintbrushes and unfinished canvases lay. She hadn't painted for weeks. Her love for art had been buried under exhaustion and survival. But now, something stirred inside her. She picked up a brush, dipped it into deep blue, and began to paint. Stroke after stroke, she poured every emotion from the past few days, humiliation, anger, dignity, and quiet strength, onto the canvas. By dawn, a painting emerged. A faceless woman standing tall amid laughing shadows, holding a single candle of light. She titled it, "Worth More Than Gold." That same morning, an unexpected email arrived in her inbox, one that would change everything. It was from the Harvard School of Arts, notifying her that she'd been awarded a full scholarship for her portfolio submission from months earlier. She had forgotten she even applied. Maya stared at the screen, tears filling her eyes. All this time, she'd believed her dreams were too far, that people like her didn't get chances like this. Yet here it was, the universe's quiet reply to her pain. As the news of her scholarship spread online, the story took a new turn. Media outlets now called her the artist waitress who refused to dance. Talk shows debated morality, class, and respect. And while Maya tried to stay humble, she couldn't deny a deep satisfaction. Not of fame, but of finally being seen for who she truly was. Meanwhile, the same video that lifted her up began to tear Alexander Dalton down. Stockholders of Doll Tech. Industries started questioning his behavior. A journalist released a follow-up report titled, "The Billionaire Who Tried to Buy a Woman's Dignity." Sponsors began distancing themselves. Investors backed out of upcoming projects. Dalton's PR team scrambled to fix the damage, but every apology he posted online only made things worse. In the comment sections, people wrote, "Money can't buy class. He should dance his way out of this mess. We stand with Maya." Maya watched the chaos unfold silently. She didn't post a word. She didn't need to. The world had already chosen its side. For the first time in years, Maya smiled. Not the tired smile of a waitress trying to please rude customers, but the quiet smile of a woman reclaiming her worth. She whispered to herself, "Mom would be proud." And somewhere in his glass tower office, Alexander Dalton stared at his computer screen, at her face on every major headline, and felt something he hadn't felt in years: shame. Because no matter how much money he had, the one thing he couldn't buy anymore was silence. The following week changed everything. What had started as a single viral video had now turned into a public movement. Every news channel, talk show, and online forum buzzed with the same question. How far can money go before it loses its worth? At the center of that storm was Alexander Dalton, the billionaire who once thought the world bowed to his wallet. For the first time in years, his name wasn't trending for his business deals or charity events. It was trending for disgrace. In his glass-walled office, Dalton stared at the large television screen on the wall. News anchors dissected his every word, his every smirk from that night. Investors were pulling out one after another. "Sir," said his assistant nervously, standing by the door, "we've lost another sponsor. They don't want to be associated with, the controversy." Dalton didn't respond. His jaw tightened as he scrolled through his phone, seeing thousands of angry comments on his latest apology post. Too late. You can't PR your way out of cruelty. You embarrassed her. Now the world embarrasses you. He tossed the phone onto the table. It clattered loudly against the glass. In just 10 days, Daltech's stock dropped 30%. Board members demanded an emergency meeting. His lawyers warned him of potential lawsuits for public harassment. The empire he'd built over 2 decades was starting to crack, not because of a competitor, but because of his own arrogance. For the first time in his life, Alexander Dalton felt powerless. Meanwhile, across the city, Maya Carter's world had quietly transformed. The same people who once ignored her now celebrated her. Her painting, worth more than gold, was displayed in a small local gallery, and within hours it sold for $40,000. But instead of keeping the money, Maya donated half of it to a women's foundation helping low-income mothers. When a reporter asked why, she smiled softly and said, "Because kindness spreads faster than cruelty if we let it." Her humility won even more hearts. Within weeks, she received letters from women all over the world, waitresses, nurses, teachers, thanking her for reminding them that dignity is priceless. She never sought fame. Yet somehow, fame found her. Not for scandal, but for strength. By the end of the month, Dalton's company board held a public press conference. He stood behind the podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. His face was pale. "Tired, Mr. Dalton," One journalist called out. "Do you regret your words that night?" Dalton hesitated. For a man who always had an answer, silence was unfamiliar. Finally, he muttered, "I do," but the apology sounded hollow, because regret born from consequences isn't the same as regret born from conscience. When the press conference ended, his PR manager whispered, "Sir, we need to step back for a while. The brand can't survive this much heat." Dalton just nodded. He had nothing left to say. That evening, he walked alone through the same restaurant, Le Ciel. It was quieter now, emptier. The same walls, same view, but everything felt different. The manager glanced at him nervously, but said nothing. Dalton sat at his old table, staring at the empty chair where Maya had once stood. For the first time, he noticed how silent arrogance feels when no one laughs with you. He whispered to himself almost bitterly, $1 million, and I lost everything instead. Somewhere in the city, Maya stood at her easel, painting in peace, the same candlelight, the same grace, unaware that her quiet strength had dismantled a kingdom built on pride. Karma had spoken, and it had done so through the voice of a woman who refused to dance for money. 6 months later, the city skyline shimmered under a soft golden sunset. The same city that once watched Maya serve tables now watched her shine in a world she had quietly built with her own strength. Inside a downtown art gallery, a banner read, "The Price of Dignity, Paintings by Maya Carter." The hall buzzed with journalists, artists, and admirers. Elegant music played in the background, but the loudest sound was the quiet awe of those standing before Maya's work. Each painting told a story of pain, strength, and rebirth. One canvas showed a woman standing in a storm with her head held high. Another depicted hands reaching for light through darkness. And at the center of the room hung the masterpiece everyone talked about, a painting titled "The Price of Dignity." It showed a young black waitress standing tall before a table of laughing rich men, her eyes calm, her posture unbroken. It was haunting. It was powerful. It was real. As the crowd moved and whispered, a man quietly stepped through the door. No security, no assistants, no photographers, just him, Alexander Dalton. He had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something heavier. Regret. His once polished suit looked plain now. The world had stripped away his image, but maybe, in doing so, it had revealed his humanity. He walked slowly through the gallery, stopping in front of the central painting. His reflection stared back at him from behind the glass, a reminder of who he had been. Maya, standing across the room, noticed him. For a moment, the air froze. Their eyes met. He walked closer, voice low and unsteady. "I came to see what dignity looks like," he said quietly. Maya's expression remained calm. "You're looking at it." He swallowed, his gaze falling on the painting again. "You won," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, Mr. Dalton. I just never played your game." Her words were simple, but they struck deeper than any insult ever could. Dalton nodded slowly, unable to speak. Then he turned and walked away, leaving behind the woman he once tried to humiliate, and who now stood as living proof that dignity can't be bought, only earned. As the doors closed behind him, Maya looked around the room, at people smiling, admiring and whispering words like powerful and brave. She picked up the mic and spoke softly to the crowd. "I was once told that my worth could be measured in money. But today I've learned that real worth is measured in how you carry yourself when the world tries to make you small." The audience went silent. Many had tears in their eyes. Maya smiled gently and finished, "If you're watching this, remember, never let anyone buy your pride, your peace, or your purpose, because the moment you trade dignity for money, you lose what truly makes you rich." The crowd erupted in applause as cameras flashed, and as the music swelled and people cheered, Maya turned to her final painting, a candle burning alone in the dark. The same symbol from her very first artwork. A small card beneath it read, "For every soul that refused to dance for someone else's pride." Money fades. Fame fades. But dignity? That's forever. If this story touched your heart, share it. Because someone out there needs to be reminded. Respect yourself, no matter what the world offers.